There's nothing wrong with being crazy, just depends how good you are at it. Every tough client interaction is pretty much a opportunity in disguise. They say great products are not built in isolation, right? Like they're supposed to evolve rapidly through like obviously feedback and everything else. But even at the same time, I would say like an MVP, a minimum viable product, isn't like about settling too. It's like more about like strategic thinking, I would say.
The Next Gen Sales Leaders Podcast. Coffees for Closers.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Next Gen Sales Leader Podcast. This is Benjamin Reed. I'm here with Ramsey Al Ramahi. He is the founder of Rev Reply. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ben. Absolutely a pleasure, my man.
So we're going to get really into what it's like to launch a software company, because I know that you and I are on very similar paths in very similar markets, and we are experiencing very similar things. And so anybody listening, if you want to launch your own software company, if you want to know what the truth is like, don't do it. Yeah, don't do it. Exactly.
Cut you off. Don't.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about it. And so for anybody who doesn't know Rev Reply, can you give like a 10,000 foot view of, what is it? Why did you create it? And why are we here?
Yeah, thanks for that. Ultimately, to optimize for conversions. And what we looked at where we could actually have the most amount of lift, where most companies are not paid attention to, is post-response world. A lot of these platforms are there to send you as many emails, millions and millions and millions of emails as possible. They leave you hanging once the response comes in. And you know as well as I do, speed to lead is the killer of all deals or maker of all deals. And so we focus very heavily on once the response comes in to whatever your objective is. Usually it's meaning complete, but there's also a wide range of ways you could go. And so we go and really deep and be able to optimize for that in every shape or form for everybody across the board.
So I know that you're focused on outbound agencies right now as kind of a beachhead market. And anybody who's not listening, beachhead market, when I say that, I mean when us entrepreneurs, software tech entrepreneurs are going to market, we want to find the initial kind of niche of niches that we get our initial feedback and traction on. Hopefully there's a spillover market where we get to grow into, but ours, yours, and mine for RevOps, Rev Reply, it seems like we might as well be the same company. We are focused on outbound agencies, for better or worse. So tell me about, who are you serving and anything else you want to add on to that?
Yeah, so definitely, look, lead gen agencies are our bread and butter for the most part. That's where this was born out of. This was born out of RevGen Labs initially. We have recently taken that split, and my other co-founder has focused very heavily on lead gen and is doing a great job thriving at that. While the other co-founder and I decided to go the software route I'm trying to tell you not to do. It's a gruesome road, but it is fun, it is worth it, and honestly, I would encourage anybody to. But at the end of the day, the thing that I think is really important for people to know is like, when you're carving out a market, it's obviously it's a vertical SaaS and horizontal SaaS. There's so many different terms for it, right? I do think that like the lead gen community is a very fascinating community, and it's been incredible, painful, happy, fun, emotional roller coaster ride of a journey. But we work with a lot of lead gen agencies. But we do also do a lot of, I think we're starting to realize as we grow and as we expand, as we double down or quadruple down on just one thing and one thing only, and not the lead gen, but response management specifically. The use cases are endless. But I think we've gotten to the point where we've mastered the lead gen agency space, and now we are starting to explore other verticals, and it's been very mind-opening. It's like the world's your oyster, and we just realized very recently, honestly, it was like, wow, our TAM is actually much larger than we expected. But yeah, lead gen agencies, I might need a drink for this one.
Yeah, exactly. This is a break in the podcast to bring you our sponsor, RevOps.com. That is REVYOPS.com, the #1 GTM data management platform for your GTM and revenue operations data on planet Earth. If you are using the modern stack of Clay and Instantly and Email Bison and RB2B and Trigify and all these various tools scattered across the wind, we unify all that data all into one place so you don't have any duplicates, a unified unified view of every single contact so you can see all the data and all the activities across all the platforms all in one place. It will allow you and your team to move faster, to get better attribution across the entire funnel, and to make a heck of a lot more money. Go to reviops.com, check out how you can get started today with me on a call where we'll learn about your data management problems and how we can get you guys to the next level of growth. See you guys at reviops.com. Go there now. It will be in the show notes as well down below. Let's get back to the podcast. So I think this is something that's actually come up on a number of my podcasts recently. And I think it actually gets to the heart of, it's a deeper thing happening, I think, in the larger trend of go-to-market. And to introduce the subject, which I think we're going to get into here, is that there's really been like a transformation, right, in the last 2 years in terms of lead generation, GTM engineering. And I don't just say that like, with hyperbole and just like being dramatic. Like, there's a fundamental shift in how people go and find leads and how they send to leads and how they do it with copywriting and AI. And so I think in the process of that, a lot of hype has come into the space. And with that hype has attracted a lot of people. And the thing that I think Clay, obviously people, if you're listening to this, you probably know Clay, but Clay is the, the kind of the unicorn golden child that is now basically it's basically just a glorified Airtable with some endpoints per cell level to go pull in like different endpoint data. And so I digress. The point is like it's attracted this whole world of, I think, salespeople, frankly, who are creative. And it's like, and I don't say that in a mean way. I'm one of those guys. It's like I'm a non-technical, creative person that wanted to be a business owner and has always wanted to be a business owner. And so I deeply resonate with this idea of like low-code tools like Lovable and Replit and all these like NAN and Clay and et cetera, and gluing them together and actually having some type of productized service tech offer thing. And it's mine, it's my baby, and I get to learn and play with it, and I get to be a product manager, but also a salesperson. It's opened this entire cauldron of opportunity for salespeople that wasn't possible before. And the problem is that it's created this whole new archetype of person, right? Which I think is called lead gen agency owners. So, and what's so funny is as I get on these calls, I'm just giving my take on it and I want to hear yours. As I'm getting on these calls and when I started like meeting with all the lead gen agency owners, I was like, oh my God, I'm just meeting with myself over and over and over again. I'm like, there's like a dude who's like somewhere in his like mid 20s, maybe early 20s, all the way up to mid 40s, mostly in the like kind of like the late 20s, 30s range, all hyper bright, smart people, articulate, kind of sales guys, good ideas, super entrepreneurial, and all a little full of shit. So it's like that's basically the market, and it's created this very interesting culture and a bunch of interesting personalities, and so that's the stage I'm going to end on. So like, what do you think?
Ditto. And I think to your point I think it is because salespeople tend to be, obviously you can sell, right? You can sell an idea, you can sell a project. You could sell a theory. That's a big part of sales, especially if you enjoy it, you're passionate about it, you like it, you're good at it, like whatever it may be. And I think a lot of these ideas that like have always come up in the past, and we kind of touched on this in prior conversations with you, Ben, is like that whole like sales and marketing kind of battle. And you kind of had this battle before where like sales like, hey, we should do this, but then the sales can't really do anything because like it's a completely different skill set. The systems, it requires you to be on a full-time job to do that. But I think to your point of like what Clay has introduced and all these low code automations is it allow the salesperson who is like now obviously a lead gen agency owner to execute that idea and be able to do it through low code, right? Like, hey, I have this vision of this insane campaign and it's some crazy some sort of workflow, right? But like where before you weren't able to do that, now you could execute upon it. But that requires a certain kind of mindset and a certain kind of person. And I'm a big fan of the term like attracts like. So yeah, of course you look at yourself in the mirror when you talk to lead gen agency owners. Like you're just as crazy as I am, and we're just as crazy as they are. So, right. so at the end of the day, you're looking in the mirror.
It's calling a spade a spade, right? It's calling a spade a spade. So anybody listening to this, We are with you. We are not against you. We are one of you.
It's 100%. Look, I have some of the utmost admiration for, especially like some of these guys are phenomenal. Like I would literally refer them as the gods in this space, right? They've done amazing work. They've built amazing businesses. But man, to like the level of expectations that they have, they're just naturally like demanding because they're like highly results driven, right? Like they expect like rapid, tangible outcomes. And will hold you accountable to it if you like across every single step. And like I can go on. I mean, it is like that love-hate relationship. There's that tension due to like this relentless pursuit of results, yet like gratitude for their like straightforward communication. I don't know. I could go on and on. I just have a lot of feelings about this, obviously, more recently, especially as like we're trying to uncover a lot more different markets. I'm like, it sometimes makes me question, like, is this a market I want to sell to? Do I want to sell to a whole bunch of me's? But I understand me, so I want to sell to me. And so it is kind of, but it is beautiful because I think it's the industry, as you all know, it's like it moves so fast. Like just think about like, what if you were doing what you're doing today 3 months ago, just 3 months ago, not even like 6 months ago, let alone a year or two ago. Like imagine that. What if you were doing the same thing you were doing 2 years ago? You'll be failing miserably, right, in lead gen. So you have to be a little crazy. And there's a good old friend of mine, Bill A. already passed away many years ago, but he always told me it's like there's nothing wrong with being crazy, just depends how good you are at it. And so I think that's like it just lead gen agency owners, all of you are really good at being crazy, myself been included. So
yeah, well, I think there's a deeper, more interesting conversation that comes off of this, which is like there's like we're in it because we're selling to lead gen agency owners, obviously with our software companies, and there's also kind of like the meta level, like being like anthropological, which is like looking down and again thinking of just as a go-to-market expert or as anybody who's just building a business and has to think about like what market do I serve. This gets into the psychographics of that market, which is everyone's like, okay, I'm going after like North American CTOs at, venture-backed startups in the crypto space. I don't know, right? Yeah. And like they're very like demographic focused. Yeah. And the thing that I think actually matters most is the psychographics, which is like what behavioral characteristics and belief systems and ways of being does that cohort or group of people embody. And it's so under considered when even building lead gen campaigns, let alone choosing what market to go into, that I just want to highlight it here because at the end of the day, when we're selling products and services markets, we're selling to human beings, and human beings are weird. We're weird. We have culture and we have beliefs and we're nuanced and we have egos and we have emotions, and it's this like cauldron of craziness, like we were talking about. Yeah. And I think that the key thing to being like a great marketer, it's almost like method acting. You know what I mean by method acting?
Yes. Yeah.
Where it's like you become the character. Yeah. And that's kind of how I look at it, is like people like kind of try to abstract, like we're like this like weird robotic kind of like, let me analyze the market and put it on paper. And like, look, I have my ICP document. And it's like, look, let's be real. It's you're trying to define a human being. It's very difficult to do. And you start to come up with kind of like high level highlights of them. But as I've gone through many markets, I've sold eyelashes to 60-plus-year-old women who stay at home, grandmoms. I've sold stuff to roofers, roofing guys. I've sold GPS solutions to oil field guys. I've sold $1 million software to enterprise Fortune 500 companies. I've seen a lot of different takes on these people. And what I found is that they are all so different. But once you find your little group, that group is so similar. And so it's just like, the tribe situation. It's like you find these little tribes of people, and you got to be like an anthropologist and go and like kind of live with them and be with them. It's like the Green Berets. It's like you have to go win the hearts and minds. And that's been my experience. And lead gen has its own whole little culture. So just for anyone listening, like, we're kind of like laughing about it because we're in it. We're like literally at ground zero, and it's kind of like the fog of war. It's hard to see around. But anybody going into a market needs to get to this level of appreciation, understanding of these little tight nuances. So I just, for the sake of sales and marketing, it's a sales and marketing podcast. I wanted to bring it back to that meta level.
But Ben, that's a good point that you bring up, though. Question for you: what are you good at?
Me.
If you're gonna look at everything you just talked about, there's a theme that is consistent even with lead gen agencies and what they're good at. But at the end of the day, you identify all these different markets that you've worked in, all these different industries, right? But there's something that makes you good at what you do, regardless of the industry.
Somebody said it really well to me. They said this about me years ago, and it stuck with me. Is they said they've never met somebody like me who can see around corners like me. Which means it's like the ability to see things before they happen.
Yeah.
And there's things I like. I'm relatively gifted at sales. I'm pretty good at process documentation. I'm really good at product management. But my number one superpower is seeing kind of through the thousand variations of what could happen and going, hey, the ball's here. I need to be here. It's like Messi's ability to kick a ball through like a little tight loop, and you're like, how did he even know that guy would be there? That's, I think, my superpower.
Yeah. So it's funny because the theme that I was thinking, which was 100% aligns, by the way, it's identifying gaps, right? It's like, and that's, if you look at lead gen companies, like a really, truly highly skilled, like just best in class lead gen agency, that's what they're really good at, right? Is identifying the gap. Yes, don't get me wrong. There's a million other things go with it. Don't even get me started about deliverability and all this other stuff. Not a topic today. I don't want to talk about that. Just if you want to jump off this podcast now, that's not a topic I want to talk about.
Okay.
But it's identifying gaps, though, right? Like I think, and that's that love-hate relationship. That's the beauty of lead gen agency owners that you have in common, that we have in common, is being able to. They have ability. A really good one is able to identify those gaps very rapidly, and then in turn, what that does is they look at your product and go, oh, but does it do this? What does it do that? Can it do this? Can it do this? Okay, I never thought about that. That's a good idea. Can you do this? Yeah, we can build it. Like, but I don't want that today. I want that tomorrow now. Oh, and I want the one I did yesterday. But that helps make your product. If you got to almost like read between the lines sometimes, and that's the hard part. And when you got such overwhelming amount of feedback coming from many different angles, but that's like what makes your product ultimately stronger and more competitive, right? Like at the end of the day. But it is. I think that skill set is very similar to. I mean, again, what you said, like you have that ability to see all that, to be that messy. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even perceive it as a gift until probably several businesses in. But because like I had people say I'd say something, what I saw as obvious, and I'd be like, this is very obvious in my opinion. They'd be like, what? And like, it even came down to like, so I'm a product manager, and it sounds like you might be as well, where you go in and you work with whoever the designer is on Figma, and you're helping kind of like architect the user experience and also make sure you have the right technology stack. But I'll say something like clearly we need X, Y, and Z here in this way, in this shape, with this padding. And then the designer will be like, why do you think that's obvious? And I just always thought it was because it's obvious to me, which is obviously showing a lack of awareness. But somebody changed my mind on this over a year ago, where they said something, this concept of taste. And I've said this on a couple podcasts, but I think it's like it's a form of discernment. It's a form of like focus, which is the ability to see something clearly, right? And I think about this so much, which is like, how do you distill out of a gazillion bazillion little things the perfect 3 words, or the perfect button, or the perfect user experience? And that's discernment, that's taste. And it's like, why was Steve Jobs amazing at or his what's his main designer's guy's name? What made them amazing? It was because they could distill where we were, where the next inflection point would be, and they'd be right ahead of that. And that's just a form of like, you can't. It's not like you're going to come up with an equation here and be like, okay, all these things, and here, whoop, that's the thing. It's just it's a gut feeling. It's like I can just sense it. And it's like, I know that person can't see that those extra 5 pixels looks like shit, but it's like, I can. I'm like, don't do that. Let's do this. So having great taste and having really good discernment, I think, is every entrepreneur's true core superpower that needs to be in place. I don't know. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I mean, you also enjoy a challenge. Sounds like. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that's part of being an entrepreneur. Nobody goes into yeah, this sounds fun. Let me just go into it and get beat up every day, right? Until I figure this out. So yeah, absolutely, man. I totally agree. And I think, but it's also that's that beautiful balance of like, I don't know. It's like that whole nature versus nurture debate, right? Whether we were born with it or you're raised with it, right? It's like the end. At the end, that's the perfect balance is honestly what it is, right? You could be both. You could people who are like gifted from the second they were born. You have people who are like not gifted at all, and they've learned it the hard way, right? And I think that's a beautiful path for entrepreneurship. Is like you could be one or the other. You could be both. And you could be 70% here, 30% there. You could be the exact opposite direction, right? And it can sometimes not click until you're 60 and you're like, oh, it just clicked. I got it finally, right? I'm heading my stride. And I think it's the same thing, man. I think it's one of those things that you gotta be. It goes back to you gotta be a little crazy, just a tad bit crazy, to go after it. And that's go back to the lead gen community, man. There's a lot of crazies there that you just absolutely have nothing but the most admiration and love for, man. Who are constantly, geez Louise, man. Despite the challenges in today's markets, lead gen class help you really rapidly refine your product and make it stronger and more competitive across the board.
I think that's a good point. I think that like it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? It's like let's just like think about the archetype of a lead gen GTM agency at the basics of it. It's like they're on the cutting edge of whatever latest technology is out. They're constantly trying the latest model on whatever LLM they're focused on. Whatever new cool little feature is launched, they know about it. They're posting, not only do they know about it, they've already done like a screen share and they're just like, hey guys, this is my new workflow and look at my new tech stack. And then on top of that, they are like MacGyver to a T, which is like, anybody who hasn't watched the movie MacGyver, it's like basically this guy that can like take like a spoon and a duct tape and like a duck and like make like a fucking, I don't know, a Mercedes. And so that's basically who these guys are. They're like, all right, I got NAN, I got, SUPA base, I got a little Lovable, and guys, look at this crazy thing I did on Replit where I asked it for a Python XY, it's like, and they're just going to come out and they're going to give you some monstrosity that like kind of looks beautiful and it's kind of cool. And you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. Let's nerd out about it. But it's basically like, your uncle back in the 80s who used to like work on the car and was like, dude, like, look at me, like tinker in this car. And you're like, bro, just go buy the car. And you're like, no, I'm building the engine again from the ground up. And it's like, you can go buy that engine for like $5,000, just like buy it. Don't spend 2 years. But there's a love around it. And so that's the persona you have.
You know what?
But
I was going to say, I thought my analog headset actually aged me a little bit, but your MacGyver reference definitely surpassed that. So thank you for helping me out there.
You're welcome. I do my best. But like, that's like the one side of it, which is like that. Well, that's actually it's not even a one side. That's just a truth about this archetype. And I fall into that category. I was my first software company I ever launched was this is before I knew graphic design or I don't think Figma was founded yet. Where I took like PowerPoint and I took like basically like my screenshot capability on my Windows, whatever I was at the time. And I cropped up a bunch of different like examples of what I Googled like a cell phone interface. And I pasted up like 50 or 60 different shape images on a PowerPoint. And then I used the animate function on PowerPoint to like basically like create a little like movable prototype before like Lovable. So I am that guy. I'm not like hating. This is just a persona type. But the problem with that is that it's like anything. It's like, imagine meeting Superman before he was Superman, or imagine meeting, I don't know, any like person on their hero's journey arc and they're at the beginning. So the most unrefined version of this persona, it's like a Pokemon. It's like, you have your the pre-Charizard version, where it's like that version is kind of a little erratic, kind of a little cocky, kind of a little bit all over the place, kind of like, makes stupid decisions in terms of like, I would rather go build this by myself because I'm proud of it and it's interesting to me than go make money.
Yeah.
For example, I went and I built a van for the last 4 years because I thought that was like the smart thing to do. It was idiotic. I should have just gone and bought the stupid van. You know what I mean? So that's where like the more immature part of the market sits with cold email agencies. That's 90% of the market. Guys that are like, I'm going to go build my own app to solve this like $5 problem. And you're just like,
just buy it.
Don't solve the problem. You don't even solve that problem. You don't have to, like, that's not a problem. Don't even focus on that, you know?
Yeah.
So the more mature ones go, okay, and they focus on the bigger picture and they see like, we don't have to build everything in-house. We can outsource it. They realize that, look, you got to spend money to make money. It's not all about like teasing out all the little savings. So do you agree with that? Like, what do you see in terms of that archetype? Is that the same type of thing?
Yeah. I think even we're talking about obviously like lead gen agencies being clients, we're talking about just or clients in general, right? I think like sometimes it's like the and there's a saying I've said before that I think kind of like you reminded me of, and it's like every tough client interaction is pretty much a opportunity in disguise. And I think like even to what you've done and everything else, like it's really easy to dismiss like a difficult, I don't know, something that you come across or an obstacle. It's easy to dismiss it as like, hey, as frustrating, or like it's not, it's not, that feedback doesn't matter. I don't care. That doesn't really matter to me, right? Like it's okay. But I think that there's very few, especially what you do as well. It's like you grab that feedback and you're like, okay, hey, let me understand that a little bit more. And I think that mentality, again, I think it goes back to that mindset is like, do you look at it sometimes as an opportunity or as an obstacle, as a problem that you want to solve? Or do you look at it as like, something to stay away from? It's like, that's also, there's a balance behind that too we can get into. But yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, man.
Well, that's where, so speaking of the archetype, this guy, like the Charizard, the ultimate variation of this person, the most evolved version, which is like your Elon Musk, right? It's like, it is your, super entrepreneur versus like the more kind of like embryonic version of that person, like the, 18-year-old kid who's just really savvy and can cobble together a bunch of things and has good vision. Yeah. And so they're really fantastic clients for prototyping. And I think that's like what we have found at RevOps is that, are they great for making money from? No, they're not. They're relatively, in fact, they will try to copy whatever you're doing as soon as they think they can. And luckily at RevOps, they cannot, because it's like very deep DevOps, data architecture, very difficult to do. But they will try, nonetheless, they will try. Yeah. But they're fantastic at feedback. So they will come in, and if they believe in the vision, and they believe in what you're doing, and they believe in your team, in my experience, it's like on it. It's like, well, I need this and I need that and I need this. But coming back to that archetype, it's very important, I think, for the person building the software in the first place, is to distill, is this feedback coming from the more embryonic version of that person, or is it coming from somebody who actually gets the bigger picture here? And being able to filter through that lens. So what I do, because I get 1,000 requests too, like you, like in our product development, it's like, can you do these 20,000 things? It's like, yeah, we might be able to, but should we? And so my filtering question, this is what I have in terms of every client. So every client is set up in a Slack channel. And within the Slack channel, we have, it sounds so primitive, but it's true. We have a Google Doc, a Google Sheet. And within the Google Sheet, there is a status. And this is for feature requests and bug reports. And all those Google Sheets across all clients roll up into a master Google Sheet. And now the reason we do this is that we have a priority ranking. And I just say to these guys, like, look, there is critical, there's high, there's average, and there's low. If it is critical, there's a ranking of 1 to 5. 5 is you are dying. Like, you feel like you will literally die in the next 10 minutes if you don't get this fixed. 1 is like, I probably won't survive the night, right? And everything below that is either high, et cetera, et cetera. So I say to them, like, look, I'm only going to work on your critical. So I need to know what your priority of critical, because if you have 5 criticals, then I'm only going to focus on that. Across all clients, I focus on critical 5s. Now, I'll try to get through all criticals first. Now, if my team is really fast and we move through all the feature feedback log, then on that, I will like get into my highs. I probably will just ignore your average and your low requests, if I'm being honest. And so it's like created this like forcing effect, because I used to just ask the question, which is a stupid question to ask, which is like, is this useful to you?
Yeah.
Because the answer is always yes. And so it's like, okay, but how useful? I don't know. It's pretty useful. Okay, but like, how useful? Like, you know, and so it's like you have to like basically distill like what's capable. So my number one focus in my own business at RevOps is, how do you distill all the feedback into a usable set of features that we're going to then prioritize for the next 6 to 8 weeks?
Yeah.
It's like literally like the number one thing I do as a product manager. It's exhausting, but it's required.
And how often do you shoot from the hip about like a good gut feeling of that something might be a good feature without actually having the data to back it up?
It's a good question, because like I think that like this is a classic like lean startup versus Steve Jobs debate, which is like in the lean startup they say like, okay, go interview all your clients and then ask a gazillion questions and then solve the top problems and come up with your MVP based upon the feedback.
Yeah.
The Steve Jobs approach is kind of like a little opposite of that, which is he has a quote of, you need to know your clients so well they don't know what they really want, you have to give it to them.
Yeah.
And I think it's the actual right like ultimate approach is somewhere in the middle, which is kind of the answer to your question, which is you need to, like, for example, I was saying this quote the other day, and I think it tells the story well. Have you ever been to Brazil?
No, I have not. Definitely on the list.
So Curitiba, Brazilian city. My wife is Brazilian, and I go live in Brazil for many months out of the year. And I love Florianopolis, but not in the winter. And Curitiba is kind of in the southern half of Brazil. It gets very cold during the winter. It's a cute little city, kind of a suburb of, kind of a suburban kind of city. The most suburban-like city comparable to the United States, but it's still very Brazilian. Anyways, it gets cold. And in the houses, if you go there, this is something that's kind of like stupidly strange to Americans, where you say, well, it gets 30 degrees or 35 degrees down there. And it's cold. And it's like, well, how do you solve that, right? How do you solve that problem? Well, you turn up the heat, right? It's kind of an obvious thing.
Yeah.
They don't have heat down there,
Oh,
right? So it's like you go into the house and you're like, hey, can we just turn on the heat here? What? Sorry, what is that? Heat. It's heat. It's like, it's kind of like obvious. So it's like, and their response is just wear more clothes and have blankets and stuff. And it's not that they're like less sophisticated than Americans. They have all the normal technology. They have really nice shopping malls. It's like, it's not like a third world country. It's like, It's just a different belief system. It's a different way of doing things. So in that world, it's like, why hasn't somebody started a heating company down there and just gone and just like crushed the market on like a heating, like, installment company? And it's because you're fighting some like weird belief system within the culture about it not being necessary, right? Yeah. And so the reason I bring that up is like, that's a scenario where it's like, well, the obvious thing to do is just like give them heaters, but they don't want heaters.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, do you build the obvious thing, right? And the biggest problem I see with early entrepreneurs is that early stage entrepreneurs, is that they build a solution for a problem they perceive as obvious, but in the mind's eye of the ideal customer profile, they do not. And there's many failed startups and failed companies that have traveled obvious paths that nobody else has succeeded at, because they don't see the bodies laid before them, because there's some weird thing like that where it's just like, people just don't like heaters. They're just like, what? Like, what do you mean? It makes no sense. So I think you have to, this comes back to the taste issue. It comes back to the discernment. The only answer to that question is, you need to know these people so well and know all the little edges and angles that they can't even see around corners, to then be able to discern, okay, they want all these things, but what they actually also need is this. And so I think it's a taste thing. It's something that's the genius, where the genius comes from,
Yeah.
Yes, you should do it, but be careful,
Yeah. That's a tough balance. I've definitely had misses where I'm like, hey, I think they need this feature. Like, and then my studio is like, my co-founder CTO, like, Ramsey, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, it sounds about right. And there's been some hits, there's been some misses. There's been some hits that I'm like, wow, that was amazing. Like, good job, Ramsey. But then there's some I'm like, don't tell anybody about that, please. Let's just hide this feature. So, I mean, some part of it is, like, I think there's a balance of these gambles you have to take of, because they're the hypotheses, right? Like, they're hypotheses, and some are very data backed. Like, it's definitely, I lean more towards that side than anything else. Just the sales and sales leadership background, I think, it gears me towards more of that. But I think this world of being, I'm not a product owner by choice, right? It's like kind of you're forced upon it as a founder, right? You're like, hey, like, nobody else is going to figure this out. You have to. And so I think that world opens up my, like, little creativity world, and sometimes it's like I think this is what they need. But a lot of it for me is really trying to listen and, like, read between the lines. I know it sounds a little cliche about, like, oh, I got to listen to the customer and see what they want, but it's more than what they want, because I think where I see where people fail on that piece is just listening to verbatim what a client wants. And sometimes it is that easy. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes, like, we'll give you straight up what is needed, and you're like, that makes perfect sense. You go run it by a few people, you test it lightly, it works well, you continue to elaborate and build upon it. You sometimes have to sell the idea first to see if people are actually gravitating, or if we could do this, would you be interested? Like, there's parts of that. But the biggest piece, I think, is really reading between the lines. Like, what are you ultimately trying to accomplish at the end of the day? Cool, you want this, but I have to act like my kids. Like, my 3-year-old is literally in this phase right now of going like, why? But why? Baba, why? And I'm like, holy cow! Like, she's asking some serious, amazing questions, and it's simple as just why. Like, it's even I don't even remember where I learned this from. It was like some training and, like, leadership training way back when, and it's like it's always asking for the third why is when you get the real answers. Right, like when you're having, like, your 101s, and I think it's very similar in that regard. It's like, hey, like, so how was your day? It was good. What made your day so good? Oh, I just got a chance to squeeze a workout in, and it went well. Why is the workout important to you? Because it makes me feel good, and I actually end up releasing my energy, and I come relaxed, and that's ultimately the actual answer you get into. So sometimes it takes that, and I think, like, gotta think like I realize I'm like my kids are teaching me more than I'm teaching them. I'm not teaching them squat. I can't teach them. I'm like, go ahead. I'm trying to tell them about Rev Reply. They don't even care. So, like, they're trying to teach me a lot more about how I should run Rev Reply versus how anything else. So it's been, yeah. I mean, I do think it's like just reading between the lines and really diving in to actually find the reasons up to why they want certain things. And then oftentimes, once you get to that third layer, usually of why, you'll see a theme that will create the theme. That'll create, like, okay, so this person wants this because of that. This person wants a completely different tool, but for the same reasons as this. And that person wants a completely different tool, same reasons as that. So instead of trying to figure out what you're trying to build, find a way to solve for this. And I think that's, like, my biggest lesson. And I'm new to product. I've been very fortunate. Obviously, I'm head of global sales for Apollo, and worked with one of my favorite people in my career of any company I've worked for, Christian Patel. He headed growth. He's an amazing story for this guy, by the way. Just, a little side tangent at him. This guy was an SDR at Apollo. He was there before I joined. SDR, very, like, most entry-level SDR you could ever, like, just, like, barely out and in the job world. This guy ended up becoming VP of product and growth for Apollo. I think he left recently to go focus on so many other things. But I have a soft spot in my heart for Apollo with my background, but surely credit his background and what he's been able to do, I should say, to the success, a lot of the success for Apollo person. That's my honest to God personal opinion. They obviously have an amazing team. Tim, they have Curl, they have a lot of the guys I know that have been coming on board. But that Christian Patel, man, is just, he's a great example of somebody who had no idea what a product was. But he's the epitome of, like, hey, I'm an SDR. I need to know what makes my job best. And he took a very active role in that, and he decided to learn it. And so, like, again, he'd probably be in today's world, if he would go into a career today, he'd probably be a GTM engineer. And just the craziest one of them all, but the most awesome one of them all too. But yeah, it's like the product world is a completely new world for me, and I'm very fortunate to see him and see what he's done. And I've learned a lot from him, and I'm realizing in today's world, I'm like, man, like, I remember when he used to do that. that all makes sense why I used to do that. Like, all these things that you like really, you were there for, or you paid attention to, but really not enough attention to. I'm like, I should have paid more attention to that. But like, then some things start making sense. And I think that's one of those things is really honestly, like just diving into like he would ask you a question, and we're obviously our users of our own platform at the time. He'd just dive in, but why? And I'm like, now this whole thing, like you sound like now, I'm like, Krishan sounds exactly like my 3-year-old does today. And so, but now it makes sense. It's all coming together years later. So,
yeah. So product, for anybody who's listening, because the product role is a whole world, and it's a relatively new world. And that sounds weird to say because I think there was like a debate, like what is a product manager? I remember when I first looked that up, like it's a deep question, which is like, what is a product manager? What does it do? Well, is it a developer? Is it a person that just comes up with designs? Is it a designer? Is it a project manager? Is that what they do? Is it a marketer? Like, do they help? They talk to clients, and it seems like they're trying to help, like, get people to, like, understand, certain things about the product. So it's like, what is it? And so I went through, like, and this actually was such a deep question that it created a tremendous amount of tension at several of the companies I was at, because philosophically, there's this question of, well, what is it? But then who owns it, right? Does it sit underneath marketing? Does it sit underneath IT? Does it sit underneath tech? A standalone vertical called product? And there's I think that there's a whole set of debates. Like if you talk to a chief technology officer, they're going to say, well, it's under tech. And if you talk to a CMO, they're going to say, well, it's under marketing. Right? And if you talk to somebody who's leading product at another company, they'll be like, no, product's the whole world. Like, we don't want the marketers telling us what to build. So this isn't like a settled debate, and I think it's still raging. But the best quote I heard on product is like, it's the heart of a marketer, the mind of an engineer, and the eye of a designer. And I like that idea. It's like, it's a mixture of all. In my belief, product is its own vertical. I think that marketing is a whole world. I think sales is a whole world, and I think tech is a whole world. And I view tech as the implementer of the product vision, but you cannot have, it just comes down to archetypes and persona types, is that developers, love y'all, if you're listening, you're probably not client focused enough, and you probably aren't enough of a anthropologist enough. Now, not to say there aren't great tech people that can be that. I'm just talking about as a persona type. The average developer does not do that very well, in my experience, because they don't have the eye for design. They don't have the eye for that intuitive taste. They don't have, so it's kind of artistic, but it's also highly technical. So you also have to know, is this feasibly possible with this tech stack, and how do we implement this? So for me, I also stumbled into it because I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a tech entrepreneur. And that's where the PowerPoint presentations came from. I didn't even know what a designer was. And I went and I hired my first developer, who was a back-end engineer. And that means they do not do anything design or anything that people see. It's more on the integration layers. And they're not even a database architect, which is a whole different thing. And so I didn't know any of that stuff. And I was like, well, shit. Like, I'm going to just go start cobbling together some prototypes. And so I just dove into it. But through the course of many SaaS companies at this point, I got to work with a number of designers and the thing that, and developers and a bunch of other people. The thing that like I learned the most out of all of my experiences is go and literally live the life of the person. That's what I was saying, like go and like be them. That's why for RevOps or for you with Rev Reply, we can make some of those gut decisions for the end user because we are the end user. And I think that that's where it's like, would I trust my gut opinion on like what a doctor needs for their medical lab software? No, I have no clue. And maybe like aesthetically I could be like, well, that's obviously needs to be like this or that. But in terms of a deeper core feature or function, I would just never even begin to make that assumption. So I think it's about gathering data. It's about immersing yourself in a person's world and deeply understanding the end use cases to then be able to say, and this is what we need. That said, I do think we need to prototype. For me, before I launch anything, even if I think it's a good idea, I go and I cobble together some Figma mock-ups. If you use Lovable or something, you can have a prototype ready pretty quickly. show it to like my top 5 users, and I say, here's what I'm thinking. And then I do the test on a scale of 1 to 10. How critical is this feature to you? And if it's not a 10 or a 9 or an 8, maybe, I just, okay, prototype's not worth pursuing. I just keep with my current backlog.
They say great products are not built in isolation, right? Like they're supposed to evolve rapidly through like obviously feedback and everything else. But even at the same time, I would say like an MVP, a minimum viable product, isn't like about settling too. It's like more about like strategic thinking, I would say. Like it's just strategic learning more than thinking, I should say. It just allows you to gather those insights, and it's that whole. It goes back to the basics, foundations of like fail fast, learn fast, adjust, and continue building. But yeah, it's to your point. I think one thing that you really kind of that you hit home, that, and maybe because like we've just been so deep into roadmaps, is like even like your product roadmap, I would say, is I think initially I was using that as like a to-do list. Like it's not, it's literally, it's truly with that feedback loop and everything else, it really has to become like a strategic blueprint, like how you prioritize like ruthlessly by asking, right? Like that really has, that has helped so much in our development, like so much so that like, we've been maybe have some proud moments to share with you here, but like since November, like we have our churn, and this is something that I get really obsessed about. And it's that sales metrics, like how can I improve 1% here, 2% there, 0.5% here? Like, okay, I got to 5%. How can I improve here? It's like all these little metrics become so critical. Like I can't, and I think that's kind of like an interesting. I'm trying to maybe divert you off, slightly different conversation, but like that makes me obsessed in product is also having that sales mindset where like I need to grow. I need to my quota. I'm used to it growing every single month in sales. Like no matter what, where I've been and where I've worked, leadership, not leadership, SDR, AE, it doesn't matter anything. It's always like I expect any company I work for, they're going to increase my quota next month, right? It's always the case, right? Like it's only good for a couple of months, then wait. Once you start performing well, it's like Ramsey, your quota's now this. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll keep on going for it. I'll keep on trying to achieve it. How can I actually close more, win more, improve my percentages, everything, cross board, move every metric. And so I think that it's like it's fairly similar in the product world. It's like how can I refine it? So, or even just being a founder, right? It's like I want to. Our churn was 75% in November, dude. It's embarrassing to even say that, like on a recorded call. But it's 75% in November. This last month, I'm proud to say it's just hit below 8%, and that's unheard of. That's a sound I'm very proud of. Like, but it comes down to like being really close to the product, and I don't know if there's anybody else besides a founder at this early stage in the company for us that like this. What am I gonna do? Like, who am I gonna bring? Like,
you're not
unless I bring another founder that's want to join us, but that's a whole different world, right?
Right.
And so it's part of it is like I want these improvements, so I'm on these numbers and metrics, and I'm so driven by it because being sales minded, revenue ops minded. I'm like, I need to improve these metrics, and how do I do so? And something that I have very minimal control is try to be really good at product and learn it as fast as possible. And how do I learn it? To your point, be it, right? Be them, be the user. Which luckily for both of our products, I think we come from that world. It's no shot to all the amazing founders out there who have that engineering mindset. I mean, like, dude, if I love Jay, he's my co-founder and my ride or die, but I will never trust him with a single design element. As the CTO, like he's an engineering mindset. He's like, this looks great. I'm like, no. Nowhere near. But like, I think you have more, especially in SaaS. I don't know the factual number, but my guess, if I was gonna guess, and based on just like I'm recollecting my memory of all these founders that I know and know of, the majority of them are engineers. Because all these guys who go through YC or go to MIT, they're not sales guys. These are engineers coming to build a sales product. They think completely differently.
Exactly.
And so I think there is something that we have on these guys being a sales background. There's a
100%.
lot. I do think there's also a lot more that they have on us in so many different ways because they're super smart. They think completely different than we do. But I think that's an advantage to each of us in different ways, right? Like there are things that we need each other ultimately, right? And that's why if you have the perfect combo,
Right.
like you could really go very far. But yeah, man, a product is a fun, fascinating one, and like I'm learning to love it in every shape or form. But it is, yeah. And it kind of goes back to that product feedback and the people that will beat you up more than anybody else, and your damn lead gen guys and gals, like you guys are brutal. I love you so much though, because without you, this wouldn't exist honestly in so many different ways, and it's opened up the floodgates, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I think that like this, I was at a dinner the other day, lunch, whatever, dinner, lunch, and it was a bunch of devs. So I actually hang out with a lot of developers. Developers
Yeah.
are actually my favorite people because I like the way that they think, and they honestly are usually very terse and very direct human beings.
Yeah.
I like that. I
Yeah.
hate bullshit.
Yeah.
I hate politics. I hate what we call boa process. So boa process means good corner in Portuguese. And it's a person that you can go shoot the shit with on a corner. Because in Brazil, when they go out on Friday nights, you're not in a bar. It's not like the United States where you go out to the bar. You go out to the street, and there's a little like, bodega style kind of like place selling beer. And you grab the beer and you go out and literally stand on the corner.
Yeah.
And there's guys there that like, you have a great time, you're shooting the shit, you're drinking, it's so amazing, but you could not rely on that guy for anything. And so like the long story short is that, with when I'm looking for like product or building something or being in business, I want highly reliable, highly high attention, extremely precise, very sharp-minded, where it's like they'll see, like I'll say something, then they'll say something, and I'll say something, and it's like we're building on top of each other.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that with a boa prasa. Nice guy, but not somebody you want to be doing business with. So developers are critical. That said, I did that all to like make sure that I didn't piss off the developers. That said, they can be extremely arrogant, and so they think that they have the answers, and therefore they will be like, oh, I'll just go do. And it's like, so I was at this dinner, and this guy said, well, we just bought this crazy like massive large computer to basically run this LLM to basically do all these crazy like sub agents. So there's a master agent that has it like its subset of agents and all these other agents to then go build like the next whatever the fuck they want to build. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine, but how do they know what to build? And they're like, I'm like, how do you know what to build? And he's like, oh, well, we can just go and look at it. I'm like, no, but like the devil's in the details. It's in the edge cases. It's in the edge use cases, which are human. You're solving human problems here, right?
Yeah.
And so he was just like, and I'm like, look, here's the thing. The reason you need a Steve Jobs, the reason you need a you, there's the reason you need a me, is because we're the guy that goes, we are the Green Beret. We're the guy that sits in the village with the local elder, and we drink tea, and we listen, and we talk, and we have conversation. Your developer's not going to go do that. And that talking might last years. You are like an undercover CIA agent who is deeply immersed in some like Siberian gang, and you will be them, become them, live them. My old business partner, when I used to work in West Texas, riding along with truck drivers because we sold oil field software. He's like, you went tribal, dude. I had this crazy beard. I looked like an oil person. Like, I lived and breathed and died their world. I lived in Midland, Texas. I would go all to the local events. I would go shooting on the weekends. All of the stuff you can imagine. I literally became them. I was like an undercover agent. And that's what it takes, in my opinion. And no developer is ever going to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious though. What else do you think it is? Look, there's a lot of we're talking obviously about like the thing about it, we've kind of had on a few different points here about building a SaaS company is where we started this conversation, and then the ultimate users and the people that we're going with the vertical SaaS or horizontal SaaS, whatever it may be. ultimate users for us are like lead gen, and we're talking about the love-hate relationship of what they're able to put us through, and how much we still ultimately obviously love it, but how much we still complain about them and love them at the same time. But then the other piece is product, obviously being very product driven, and the role of like devs and engineers, and couldn't agree with you more. But what do you think? What other elements do you think we didn't talk about that really makes, in your opinion, a company really flourish or thrive outside those elements? And maybe I don't know, want to talk qualitative or quantitative, maybe both. What else do you think?
I mean, I can tell you exactly what it is. It's core values. And this seems so cliche and so like, bro, but the thing I think about most on planet Earth is the subject, which is, and I'm going to set a foundation and then I'll build up from it. Everyone has heard of values, and most people don't think about it often, if at all. If I ask 99.9% of the human race what their core values are, people will be like, kindness, love, it's like, whatever, right? Like they're going to come up with some random shit on the spot. But I'm talking about like people who are like, I'll tell you exactly what my core values are. It's this and this and this and this and this. And I think it's so important to define somebody's own core values because all behavior stems from those beliefs. Now, the separate piece of that is deep awareness of one's own emotional state in all the emotions one feels. So if there's two things I think like impact business, putting that aside, life, relationships in general, is one's emotional understanding of oneself and one's core beliefs and values. And then from there, all things happen. And the number one mistake I see happen with entrepreneurs is they don't recognize that this is not purely logical, what we're doing here on this earth. There is a deep realm of emotions that plays a part, and we're dealing with human beings and human organizations and human niches and human cliques. The GTM space, a very particular set of individual personalities and emotions and needs and wants. And that's an emotional experience. And that's a value belief-based experience, right? Like frugality and figuring it out is clearly a core belief of the GTM space, which is like, we're going to do this for as cheap as possible. We're going to do this as quickly and as crazily MacGyvered as possible. It's a core belief. It's a way of being for them. And if we don't recognize that as a core belief, then we won't recognize when we conflict with it. And so the truth is like defining one's beliefs allows you, me, our employees, everybody to at least have some measuring stick to see if we're aligned. And so everything I've ever seen in any team or any culture comes down to a conflict of either somebody not being aware of their own emotions and or not being clear on what their belief systems are relative to others. And so I think defining that is the foundation. And everything I do from a hiring perspective, from clients to everything is I ask myself, are the core beliefs aligned with my core beliefs? For example, one of my core beliefs is unimpeachable character. And part of that is doing exactly what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And if you can't do it, at least acknowledge you can't do it. And if you don't do it, at least take responsibility for it. So that's my definition. And for me, it's like, there's some very simple things somebody could do to show me they don't have unimpeachable character, right? So it's like you're out at the bar, you're hanging out with somebody, and all of a sudden, I don't know, they just see like I don't know, like a tip or something at the table, and it could be like $5, but they just like grab and put in their pocket. Now, I've never seen anyone do that. So that's just an example. A deeper one would be like, they're out and it's like, like they have a wife, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna go talk to that woman. It's like, it's like if that's what you want to do, go do it. But it's like, for me, it's like I need a measuring stick for it's like, if you're gonna cheat on your wife, you're gonna cheat on me. Right? And it's like so it's an example just of like one thing that kind of proves that point, which is like with employees, it's like high attention to detail is important to me. If I put them through a test on a hiring spree and they just don't fill out a couple of the key things correctly, it's like, it's such a basic thing where it's like, okay, we're not going to fit well together because you don't believe attention to detail is important, because it's not an intelligence thing. It's not like it's like I'm going to be so worried and concerned about this that I'm going to triple check it for every little thing. Right. But that might not be right for some people. So that's my belief.
Yeah. I mean, that's, man, it resonates well with me. And I often say it's all about people and rhythm. I've said that for decades maybe. It's as long as you have the right people and you have the right rhythm, because you can't just like, even in a company, you could have the right people and you have no rhythm in the company. You have no, you're not doing any OKRs. You're not doing stand-ups or whatever it may be, or one-on-ones and all that stuff, man. All these little things. I just think if you have the right people and the right rhythm, you can accomplish anything. It goes hand in hand. So similar to, like, I think you also touching on this part as well. That's more on the on the personal value side as well. I 100% agree with you. I think, like, even like any relationship, it's all about aligning values. Like, why would you ever marry somebody or date somebody or anybody that's like, it doesn't align with your values? I can tell you that's going to be that just you're setting yourself up for massive failure. And at a company, I spend more time with my co-founder than I do with my family sometimes, right?
Exactly.
And it's like it's you have to be able to get along. Your values have to be aligned, and your team. Like, I mean, it's night and day, right? Like we have to be able to get aligned. We be aligned and get along. And all those things matter. I think it's like that. Like that, you can't have trust without respect. You can't have respect without trust, type of thing. Like you're missing one of these points here. It's kind of like telling sign, but sometimes you gotta. Unfortunately, I think actually I've been very fortunate in regards to my hires. I think I've always like listened to my gut. I've never had to let go of too many people in my entire career. Like I've actually. Even like the handful of people I've had to let go that I've hired, a couple of them have come back where it's just like, it was just, hey, it was timing, wasn't it? It was like, it was all very amicable. Like, it's not like, it wasn't anything bad. It's just the stage of the company that I was at where I was forced to make decisions. And, it's not like it was nothing super personal. It's almost like sometimes it's business I have no control of. It's out of my hands. But I think fortunately I've been like, I think that maybe that part of that gut, that qualitative piece that is hard to also measure, be a good judge of character. Maybe that whole thing where we started this conversation, like attracts like, like I think good people attract good people. And if you listen to that, you're going to find good talent. Also nurturing them. And like, we've been very fortunate. Like we have such a stellar team, dude, that is like, and some honestly have come into this with little to no experience, and every day I'm like in awe of them, of what they've grown themselves into. And that's what makes my heart melt. I'm like, man, this is beautiful to see these people flourish and grow. Where like a year or two ago, I'm like, well, this person's really green, but like you see the hunger, you see that like there's traits that you just like that you will see through those actions that you were talking about earlier. Does that person grab that $5 bill and off the table and put it in their pocket, or does that person grab and go, hey, somebody forgot a $5 bill? And that's like the true judge of character. And that's just one of many examples, obviously, you could grab of how they handle little things that all add up to these big things. And like if you ask anybody, like, which person would you want to work with, it should be a no-brainer. But sometimes the ones that don't care about that kind of stuff still go for that person because that person has maybe something else to offer. But I think maybe, and obviously in talking to you, like we realize like, yeah, but that's a red line that I think you crossed, and that just is zero tolerance for. And I know it's not you might be a great salesperson, you might be a great employee everywhere else, but like, what does that really say about you deep down when it comes down to it, right? If I had my back was against the wall and I had to take off, am I going to be able to trust you with the company 100% because you felt comfortable taking that? What else would you do? Like, you start thinking about these things, and maybe that's part of the crazy part in us. Like you're really thinking too much of it, but I tend to listen to that piece, and I think it brings you good people. So, in other words, I agree is what I'm trying to say. I agree.
Yeah, I can say that like this comes back to taste, like you said, discernment, gut, where the way that the question then becomes, how do you develop gut? I think some people like naturally have some piece of it, but I think it's like both. It's nurture and nature, right?
Yeah.
Where the way, because I will say I've not had the experience you've had. I've lost a lot of people in my hiring. I think I've had poor judgment. I think that, and I think that part of the reason that was a forcing effect on me is that I always was in startups. So I was always dealing with shitty products, right? Like early stage things, fires everywhere, no process, no systems. So I never kind of got the Apollo experience like deeper into it. Now maybe yours was more startup-y because maybe it was earlier, but for me it was like I've never been in a big organization where it's like everything is perfectly in order and all the systems and processes have been figured out, and it's like, and now, oh, you didn't follow the protocol for checking into the office today. I've never been a part of that. So
that's boring. You don't want to. That's so boring, man. I've done that, been there, done that. It is no fun. There's a reason why I magnetate myself to the startup world. So you didn't miss out.
The problem is though, is like in startups, you generally speaking are frugal. Therefore, you look for like young, hungry, smart people that are willing to work for less. But with that archetype of person, you start to attract, a bunch of different things that are like, it's not like you're paying a $200,000 base where it's like you're just getting the creme de la creme. You have to weed through a bunch of A players and B players and C players, and you have to have a discernment on like, are they good or not? And I will say in the early part of my career, I have not been good at that. And I made a lot of mistakes. And I had to grow also as an individual to be, one, somebody that people respected enough to let them lead, let me lead them. But also, two, to have the discernment and the understanding to recognize when I was being taken advantage of. And I didn't think about values or anything 10 years ago, and I'm 36, when I was 26. And I really only deeply started thinking about this like 3 to 4 years ago. And really, really, really like just honing in on this in the last year, where it's like, for me, it's like, it's the bedrock foundation of everything. And I just went through a breakup with a business partner, 7-8 months ago. And I can say that like the thing that for me, mine is like super high standards, high drive, like we're going to like all crush until we like I am that guy. And that doesn't make it right. There's people there that are like, work-life balance, like, you shouldn't work on the weekends. Like, why are you messaging us after hours? I'm like, those are not my people. I'm messaging you at 1 a.m. with a big idea. And it's like, that sounds toxic to some cultures, and perhaps it is for those people. But for my people, it's not. Yeah. My people are like, they're up at 1 a.m. with me, and they're like, bro, yeah, you're so right. I'm on it. Let me fix it. So, but you won't know that it's not right or wrong. It's just about alignment. Yeah. And for my business partner at the time, he was like, dude, like in a year from now, I just want to be sitting on a beach. And I'm like, bro, that's not going to happen. like we're building a startup here. Like you're asking for a retirement package. I'm telling you that we have at least 5 years to go before we have any exit event, and it's going to be grinding and it's going to be hard. And then there was like I started to notice, like I tried to work with him. So my problem historically has been I really want people to win, and I really want to bring people up to my level. That's been my like biggest limiting belief. Yeah. And the thing that I had to overcome was I don't have to do that. People are either there. So I have a new principle, which is you either have it or I don't have time. You either have it or I don't have time. And that was a core principle I came up with about a year ago. Because I was just so sick of being like, no, but he can do it. Look at all his potential. It doesn't matter what his potential is. He could be the brightest, smartest, most capable person on planet Earth. If he doesn't have it, I don't have time. And the same thing is like, if people go, well, how do you know if he has it? I have a second principle for you, which is if there's any doubt, there is no doubt. So if you think he doesn't have it, then there's no doubt he doesn't have it. Because my experience with A players, people that are perfectly aligned with my value system, and by the way, like, I think they're not the same. Like, you can be an A player and not have my value system. I just want to be clear. Yeah. But nonetheless, somebody that has my value system and also is an A player, meaning that they have like high energy drive, really give a damn, like super attention to detail, super smart. It is so obvious they are A players it's like one of those things where people say like, well, what does product market fit look like? And it's like, you'll know when you have product market fit. It's so obvious that you do. And until you have it, you can't know what it feels like that hockey stick experience, where it's like same thing with like A players. It's like A players are, this isn't just like cliche. It's like they are so much better than B players. It's like you'll just see them like pop up with some new cool thing over the weekend. You're like, how'd you do that? And they're like, I just did the, and it's like, and they're just geeked out by it. Whereas like B players, you're kind of like, what happened last week? I haven't heard from Frank in about 3 hours. And, you know, is Frank working? And you check the CRM and it's like, he's only made 2 calls. You know, it's like, Frank, hey, what's going on? Hey, man, sorry, I had to run to my sister's doctor's wedding's birthday party. You know, it's like, so I just think that if that's the second principle, if there's any doubt, there's no doubt. So if you don't have it, I don't have time. And if there's any doubt, there's no doubt. So
I like that. If there's any doubt, there's no doubt. I like that, man. I think that's a new one I'll definitely keep in my pocket. That's beautiful. So, okay. So all right. So let's go down this list then. One thing we didn't talk about, and we're obviously both sales guys, sales process. How do you think in your opinion, I feel like I'm not interviewing you, I'm picking your brain now. In your opinion, how do you think actually the sales process is actually transformed over the course of this whole GTM wave, right? I mean, like, there's still like the product led is still really important. The PLG motion obviously is still forever existing. I don't think that's going anywhere. I think if anything, it's becoming more prevalent. But sales is still there. The sales team is still there. You still need people, obviously, but there's a lot you can do without people. But and I think you can build a lot without people. But you're seeing like, I mean, I don't imagine we'll be getting a salesperson anytime in the near future. I can't. It's not even anywhere on the radar, right? Like not even nowhere near even like in that 2 or 3 year plan. To be honest with you, I'd like to push that off as far as possible. But again, you don't know where things go. I don't want to say as far as possible. But where does sales fall?
So I own a company called Next Gen Sales Systems.
Yeah.
So I obviously think about sales systems. And I have a product called Scale Ops. And the product is a fully baked inside sales turnkey operating model. So it's like literally it's 100+ videos. It hands any new entrepreneur a fully built sales process with a fully built sales CRM template, fully automated, with all the training guides for the entire sales reps, and everything that you can imagine from implementation to expectations for the day to core values to, I mean, the whole freaking 9 yards.
Yeah.
And where it developed from was over 10 years in many companies where I had to go in, build the sales structure from this, the ground up, come up with a sales process, hire in the sales reps. And I built a number of companies past 20 employees doing that. And in the process of doing all of that, like anything, I came up with a first version and it sucked, and then I changed it and it sucked, and it just evolved over time. And so now I have my current latest version, but I'm sure it will change as the world evolves. So I think like you're right. It's like this is the thing that like is kind of funny to me, because I sit in this weird, I'm like the product manager of like sales, GTM, and Rev Ops. It's like this weird thing where I sit in the middle of it all, and I can see the GTM focus, and I can see the Rev Ops people, and I can see also, your typical CRO and that perspective, or CMO. And I see it both at like the SMB level, the mid-market, and enterprise, because I've sold to all of them. I've worked with a bunch of those types of companies on the agency side, and so I kind of see it all. And I think there is no perfect sales process. I think it is completely dependent upon the business type, the offer amount, the deal cycle. And so obviously, like, if you're selling $300 per month things versus, say, $1 million pieces of software, the sales process is fundamentally different. That being said, I still think when you get into B2B high ticket deals, whether it's $4,000 deals per month or it's $100,000 per month deals, you can still have a pretty great starting template. And that's what Scale Ops is the starting template. So the way that we think about sales process, and this is like, there's no way we're going to be able to even get deep into this at all, but I think about it both at the company level, so there's a bunch of statuses that occur. That is to track the overarching process of completely unengaged company all the way through a qualified deal and a customer. And then there's individual contact statuses, so every contact has their own status. And so we can say like whether they're in an active deal, not in an active deal, are they prospect, are they cold, where are they in that buying journey. And then there's also the opportunity deal cycle, which is how do you move people once they're considered qualified through a standard pipeline set of opportunities. And every one of those parts of the statuses, whether it's at the company level, the opportunity level, or the contact level, is debatable. I have my own bread and butter kind of thing, but if you talk to another CRO, he will probably have something different. We just went in and we implemented a whole new process for a payment processing brokering company. And their world had nothing to do with what I did. So they got like the 80% template, but then we had to go in and find out there was this thing called pre-app. And we had to go in and completely architect this very specific application process for applying for essentially payment processing that had to go in a very particular order. So it just goes to show that like you can always start from a base, and you have to have the basic fundamental understanding of sales process and revenue operations from a technical perspective. But tech is just the implementation layer. You have to have the strategy and the thinking of like the steps. And that requires someone like me, somebody who's a chief revenue officer who deeply thinks about process and can come in and define that. And all the analytic strategy comes off of that, all of the, what like defining signals and defining like what parts of the buying journey have to occur. So it's a really deep question. And I think mine took 10 years to evolve. I think there's probably 1,000 other CROs out there listening, and they're probably like, yeah, mine did too. So I think it's kind of all debatable, but I think we all kind of end in a similar type of world, which is, does it perfectly match the buying cycle? Does it capture the conversion points that you need? Does it allow you to facilitate conversations both for the management of CRM, the CRM for the SDRs, and also does it give executives what they need in terms of analytics? And if you have all of that baked together, you're in a good place.
Yeah. See, I feel like my opinion, I would have shared that same exact opinion years ago, and I feel like my opinion is starting to change a little bit on the sales side, and it's kind of weird. I feel like I'm back in discovery mode as well, maybe as like a founder-led sales team of one right at this point. But I think I think what I've realized is kind of going back to my early SDR days, where like complexity is the enemy of growth. And I think it's applicable specifically, by the way, let me just make sure that's a big caveat, to very early stage companies, right? I think that is like, hey, you got to run 1,000,000 miles an hour, you got to constantly change. And obviously having the sales background, the sales leadership and all that, like, I understand the startup world, we got to navigate, and it makes it kind of a little fun to be able to have full control of that on your own. But it's almost like, again, bringing it back to lead gen companies, I feel like in today's world, the phase of lead gen comes where they come in, it's really critical up front, and it's most beneficial really in the very beginning parts of the company where you can afford to actually do something that can get your best bang for your buck if you could find the right lead gen partner, right? Before you start building the house. And the old school way is like, hey, let's build all the stuff in house. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's there's for some that's actually a better fit, but for most, I mean, when we talk about reiterations, why would you want to bring somebody on full time and figure all this out when you could like get your learning a lot faster with a lead gen company, for example? And you should have your product be, or you should have your sales team be just the founder to get those discoveries. And so maybe I'm like running a little more conservative in that realm, where before I'm like, how fast can I scale the sales team? Let me build this process. Let me plug things in. Let me build all this out. And now let me just like plug people in, like boom, 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 boom. And like, I know the rhythm. Like I know it's like, hey, for every salesperson, this is the quota. For every hire, this is what I expect the revenue to be. The math is what I'm used to doing, but I feel like I'm like kind of going the other way lately. And it's again, ask me in a month, this might change, but I think like just you ask yourself these questions constantly. I'm like I always have been that person who I just want to scale, I want to hire, because I know as a sales leader, that's what you're bred to do. It's like, hey, I know if I get the right profile, I got the right process, it's a plug and play system. And so, I don't know. Yeah, no, that's it's fascinating because you literally, I mean, you're in some ways you are providing making the complexity simpler, right? Mm-hmm. So like, but I imagine that only fits for certain companies. You're not going to be, I mean, I'm sure there's different stages of the company.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. But
that's the thing. Is let's put like a box on this, right?
Yeah.
If you are under $10,000 a month in revenue, you do not need, go just sign up for Close CRM, get their 2-week trial, use their out of the box processing system. You'll be fine. Like seriously, that's good enough. And then go. The more important thing is to identify who your ideal customer profile is. Have a good product and offer, and have a good set of sales collateral that you can leave behind, and then you can show to people, and get your pitch deck fully dialed, or at least your sales conversation fully dialed, and then just talk to a bunch of people. But before you even do that, let's say you're pre-revenue or you're just getting started. I have a whole training in my school group called it's the Mom Test, Launch Your Offer. You don't even sell. Your whole thing is just talk to your ideal customer profile, which means you have to define it, and then come up with your top 6 challenges document. That's your first sales collateral, and then that becomes your first MVP, and then you go get your first 2 case studies, and then maybe you are ready to want something more sophisticated once you get past, say, $30,000. But I think if I was if you don't have if you have 10,000, if you're want to go fast and you want to advisement and you have money to spend, you should hire someone like me who has it out of the box, ready to go. And I could plug it in about a week. You'll have a full system ready to go. You'll have all the training guides. That's fine. If you're a struggling entrepreneur, do not hire me. I'm a waste of your money. You should go and you should get a fucking you should get a spreadsheet. It's called Google Sheet. Come up with column A and say prospect, attempted, talk to, and simply qualified, proposal sent, 1, and there's your pipeline. You're good to go. And have the guy's name and just track it in the spreadsheet. And you can close $50,000 a month doing that. You are fine. And just every day go to the spreadsheet and go, did I talk to Bob? Just have a status on the column that says last outreach. And then literally pick up your phone and call the guy. That's it. That's your sales process. What I was referring to is okay, you have now scaled up. You're past $1 million. You have a good product. You've gotten past the slog of the product development. You're hiring other people. You might have just gotten funded. You want to get from 1 million to 10 million, and you need to go faster. You need to hire a bunch of people. You need a formalized process with an entire training system around that to create essentially a McDonaldized plug and play system people can come in and learn. You don't need that for the first $1 million if you're not ready for it. So I just want to be clear. I'm not this is not me being you need a process,
the most complex. Oh, you haven't generated a single penny of revenue. Perfect. Let me show you the most complex sales process they need to plug in.
You don't need that. It's helpful when you want to go to tens of millions of dollars and you've gotten past that $1 to $2 million mark. Before that, dude, get close CRM, you're fine. And I think that's the best money you can spend. Otherwise, I think anybody's wasting your time, in my opinion. Yeah.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree. That's beautiful. I love that.
Well, so I know we've been on for an hour plus. There's 2 things I like to do before we end these things. Well, I have to do another one. Number 1 is, where can people find you? Where can they look you up online?
LinkedIn. I need to be more active on LinkedIn. That's my promise to you. I gotta be more active. I'm trying that. That's my quarterly goal for right now. It's just I posted twice this week. That's insane. That's stepping up my game. So LinkedIn, Ramsey Al Ramahi, all one word, RAMSEYALRAMAHI.
What about the website? Where can people find the company?
Rev Reply, revreply.com. Feel free to go check out a trial. Mention this pod. I'll hook you up with even more than extended trial to make sure you get the tires around. But yeah, check out Rev Reply. We're about to unleash some pretty gnarly, wild things that's going to really open up the floodgates to not only just salespeople and not only just marketers, not only just lead gen agencies, but including you and in your own personal mailbox where it could actually really be a benefit to you. So announced here first, I guess, but we're getting ready to unleash some wild stuff that I think is going to be game changing.
So if you guys need help with reply management after you've sent it out and now you're getting these replies back, obviously you have to hit these guys up, Rev Reply. All the links will be in the comments, not the comments, excuse me, in the description below. So please go and check them out, give them some love, and it seems like you're going to get hooked up with a cool deal if you do. So the last thing I'd like to ask the guests, because at the end of the day, we only have so many breaths on this planet Earth.
Yeah.
It's not all about sales and marketing and startups. I like to ask people, if you had to leave humanity with one thought or idea or, I don't know, anything you want to share, what do you think would be the thing you would want to share?
Be nice. That's an easy one. Be nice. And the world is way too small, and life is way too short to not be nice. Just be nice. Let's all get along and treat people well and be nice. That's it. Simple as that. Be nice. That's all.
Great. All right, guys. Well, we will see you guys on the next episode of the Next Gen Sales Leader podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm sure we'll do another one. I'll see you guys later. Signing out. Have a great rest of your day.
You've been amazing. Thank you.
Bye.